Well, Matt, this is Kyle, and I'm Roy. You
For
and I
now.
spoke. Believe it or not, we interviewed you back in 2016.
Yeah.
Was the last time you were on this thing for was it select difficulty? Yeah, it was. I think it was the night of the tour, or the day after the first night of the tour, and I mean, pretty crazy that it's been so long, and that was your third album, and now you're really just on your fifth.
Yeah, sixth album. There's a little break in the middle of like the chronology of P1 to
Right, right,
P5.
right. Exactly.
Yeah. Um,
So, I mean,
yeah.
by the way, we love the title. Djent is not a genre, which is great, and I
Thank
want
you.
to talk about that and the album. The thing with this record that has blown me away from listening to it is the diversity of it. I mean, the power that you guys bring is still there, which is just awesome. But there's so many more styles, melodies, singable choruses, jazz stuff, some pop even there a little bit. What happened to bring you guys to this point to incorporate all of this on this record?
I think there's a ton of things that have happened for sure. We had almost wrapped up the full touring cycle for P4 when the pandemic hit. It hit right after a tour that we did, which was like likely going to be our last headlining leg that we had done. And then we had like some other touring opportunities in the summer of 2020 and a couple little things beyond that. But that was really going to be it. We were going to pretty much wrap up at the end of 2020 and then get into writing. And then obviously we were all affected by what happened. And we sort of all decided, all right, let's kind of take some time, like individually, to think about what we want to do on this record. If everybody kind of puts their own thinking caps on, starts writing stuff on their own, we'll come together when we can, even if it's just over Zoom calls, and communicate about what we're all thinking and what we're all vibing on. And the reality is, it was not an easy process. One, because the pandemic, that's a given, and I think everybody can talk about
Yeah.
that all day. But two, we're all located in different spots throughout the country. And there was just a lot of logistics that we had to figure out if we were all going to get into a room. For me, in 2021, I had a kid, so I really couldn't travel as part of like the first writing sessions that we were putting together just because of COVID. And one, I was kind of on like, when's the baby going to come watch, like,
Sure.
and then even afterwards I was just full on. So initially, the rest of the guys were able to get together and flesh some music out. And it was really different in the sense that like some of us really loved the material, and then some of us just weren't vibing on all the material. And it wasn't like a instant thing. It was like at first everybody was into it. And then the more and more that we listened, some of the people were in the band were like, like I'm just not feeling this, or like I feel like I can't connect with this or that. And what helped was, one, the communication and honesty there. Like I'm glad that we all did talk about it.
Right.
But two, what I think needed to happen was that all of us needed to go through some personal things during that period of time, whether it be me having a kid or other things with the guys and their lives, for us to really be able to say, you know what, maybe the stuff that we wrote initially isn't as honest as where we are in life. Let's try to be completely honest in our music, in the lyrical content, in how we want these songs to feel and sound, based on where we are as people. And I think that's a big difference than like before. It was always just a little bit more fun and jovial, and like we're getting together and we love writing and we're going to work together and it's going to be great and we'll write whatever we want. But
Right.
let's really have a blast. This was not a blast in the beginning. It took a lot of effort to get to the point where we decided, you know what, like we need to start fresh. We basically scrapped a whole bunch of songs and we just decided, let's start fresh. Let's be brutally honest with ourselves. Then it started to be fun. then we started hitting a stride, and we all felt like it it was the most honest representation of who we are as people and as a band. And the result is what you've heard, the album that you've heard. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but I think it was
No, it
important to
makes
kind of get
sense.
there that way.
Yeah, yeah. Very
That's
cool.
great. So Matt, you probably don't remember this, and I'm glad you don't. But the last time I was with you was on Progressive Nation at Sea Cruise 2014. We shared a
Yeah.
hot tub together. So you really shouldn't remember that. But I remember I was sitting with my friend Kyle, who's an enormous Periphery fan. You know, I'd say even back then. I mean, you guys have been around for a while, but he was like, "Y'all got in the hot tub." He's like, "We're in a hot tub with Periphery. It's pretty cool." You know, so.
Funny.
But that
Well,
was
I do
that was a
remember.
blast.
I definitely remember you guys being on that cruise for sure.
Yeah.
I just
It was-
didn't. I didn't remember the hot tub, but I try not to pay
Oh.
attention to what happens in hot
Yeah.
tubs. So.
You were just in
Let's
the hot
not
tub with so
fixate
many
on the
people.
hot tub as
who
much.
can remember?
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
But
you go.
that was actually sort of a jumping off point in many ways for the Prog Report. Like our friendships that have come from that was in a lot of ways that cruise. So awesome cruise. If anyone was there, they know that. I wanted to jump in and ask you about this. I follow you on Instagram, and my Instagram, I'm an orthodontist, so it's half orthodontists, half drummers, and a little bit of bass players sprinkled in. But you do a great job on Instagram. If nobody follows Matt, or if you don't follow him, you should. And you talk about OCD and anxiety and some of these other things. I actually talk about those topics in orthodontics, so I feel a sort of commonality with you on that. As you were talking about COVID, obviously I dealt with a lot of the same kind of stuff, and a lot of people in my industry did as well.
Yeah.
What did you figure out during that time that helped you personally?
It was a process, man. Like I've suffered from varying degrees of anxiety, and forms of OCD throughout different periods of my life. Sometimes they're more intense than others. I think the pandemic was a huge shock for a lot of people that didn't know how to deal with it. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of messaging around it that was like inconsistent, and that leads to scary, uncertain times. And what do we do? What do we not do? And for somebody who deals with things like anxiety, it definitely could be a bit overwhelming. And I had some other things going on at the time, just transitional things in my life. My wife and I moving into a new house and staying with her parents while we built the new house, and all this other stuff that we were doing at the time was like, it just all hit all at once, So with that being said, I think I needed to find things that I could do on my own. I didn't necessarily jump to the idea of like talking to someone at that time, although if anyone listening to this feels like they need help, talking to somebody is a great thing to do, for sure. If you experience anxiety. But I started researching things I could do on my own. I started getting into like meditation, breath work. I had always known who Wim Hof was, who is like known as the Iceman, who like is famous for his cold plunges. But I started researching him more. I knew that people did it to combat anxiety, and I got really heavily into that. Yeah, I bought his 10-week course, which focused on breath work, focused on cold plunges, focused on meditation, focused on all sorts of cool like yoga variations, and I put that to practice. And it's something that I continue to do to this day. Like as soon as we're done here, I have a couple friends that are coming over, and I'm going to be coaching them here at my house with cold plunges. One of them has never done it before. So I now coach people getting into, trying cold plunges for all sorts of different reasons. This particular person had knee surgery months ago and is recovering, and we do jujitsu together. So it's like a great thing for him to get into the cold and see how it works on his knee. But yeah, I mean, I got into that. And then, it kind of ebbed and flowed, and just to elaborate a little further, not to be waving the jujitsu flag, but more recently, I found that I wanted to find something else that was really mentally challenging and physically challenging, like the cold. And I decided, you know what, like I've always been interested in this. I've never done it. This seems really hard and something I would like to do. I'm going to try jujitsu. And I jumped in head first, and I have been like hooked since day one. haven't stopped. So it's been a big thing for me. And that's another thing that I've done, that I've found a lot of the people that do it in the community that I'm in the gyms that I train in, so many of them started for their mental health more than their physical health. And so that's a huge thing too. If anybody has an inkling or interest in that, it's worth considering for sure.
That's cool. Plus, you can win all the arguments within the band now.
Yeah, well, I was always bigger than everybody, so I kind of had that going for me, you know.
I want to jump a little bit back into the new record, which
Sure.
comes out on March 10th. Just a fantastic album. I've been addicted to it for the last few weeks. And
Thank you.
as we were doing this, you guys dropped a new video for, am I going to say this right? Is it Atropo? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Atropos. Yeah,
Right.
I
And
think it's Atropos. Yeah, I think it's. I don't know if the S is
I
silent.
don't know if you say the S. I wasn't sure, but great, just a great song. It's got a lot of stuff to it. Really catchy chorus. I like all the orchestration and kind of cinematic stuff you guys incorporate through the album. You're almost, I don't feel like maybe it's a concept album per se, but the flow of it really is an album you can listen to from beginning to end, and everything sort of seems to weave together, which I think is a really nice listening experience. Talk about some of the sounds and the orchestration and some of those things that you guys decided to incorporate on this one.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of brings their own interests to the album, and I think um, what's cool about everybody in the band is, despite having time off maybe from touring or being together as a group, no one has stopped working on their respective crafts, right? Whether it be production or just writing music on different instruments. Like Jake does a lot of electronic music. Misha does a lot of orchestral music. Spencer is writing music all the time. We have a side project. He's producing other bands. Everybody is doing their own sort of different thing within their musical world. And I think through those individual experiences, like I was saying before, it's like we all kind of brought our personal experiences to this record. And I think that's where a lot of those different things come from. I remember there were certain parts, like in the song Dying Star, that first chorus that has a really odd chord change and is kind of like an electronic vibe to it, with like the synth and stuff. Like that was something that Misha was just like playing around with for fun. You know, he was just like, oh, like we he was playing with this new synth that he had, and he was like, oh, this is kind of cool. What do you guys think of this? And it was the kind of thing, and like that's how a lot of this stuff happens, where he'll be like, hey, I was just messing with this. If you guys don't like it, we could scrap it and go back to the original chorus. But everybody was like, oh, that's awesome. Let's do it. Why not? We can. You know, like there's no rules. So if everybody agrees on whether it be the sound design or whether it be the awkward, odd section that like we didn't have originally, but it ends up working, like we'll do it. And it just kind of ends up being usually a majority vote or a unanimous vote in that sense. So yeah, I think that's where it comes from. Just everybody being open-minded, and as long as it is respectful as far as like letting people know if we don't like something, that plays into it too. You know, if anybody, there's been plenty of suggestions during the course of making this record where people were like, no, man, like I hear you, but I don't really want this part on this song. I don't think it works. And you debate and you go back and forth, but
It's tough. Being in a band is tough that way. I mean, it can be challenging.
Yeah. But that's what made the parts the way they are, and that's, you know, good or bad. It's like certain things didn't make it on the record and certain things did, and it was just through everybody bringing their personal best, I think.
Well, I think the song that I think hits that the most is maybe Silhouette, which is right in the middle there.
Yeah.
I don't recall hearing you guys do a song like that before, and I love it. I think it's just great, and
Thank
adds
you.
a nice flair to the record. It's just really cool. You know, is Periphery in 2023 able to put a song like that and feel comfortable about it versus Periphery back in 2016? You might have said maybe no.
Yeah, maybe it's hard to go back then and think about where we were, but yeah, sure, I think so, because again, the rule was we need to be as honest as possible, and that's a very personal song lyrically for Spencer, but It's a personal song for all of us because I think we can all relate to it. I think anybody who listens to that song can probably draw some kind of connection to it, if you pay attention to the lyrical content, which is probably worth mentioning. You know, this album, we all really made a huge effort to be involved in every instrumental portion of it, or in every instrumental piece of it individually. Meaning, when I was writing through the drum parts and we were coming up with the parts, everybody could have input. And when it came to the vocals, everybody had input. You know, hey, Spencer, what about this lyric? Let's try this. Or, hey, Spencer, I don't necessarily understand why you're using this word instead of this word. Can you explain it to me? Or, hey, Spencer, what's this song about? Like, so I can understand it more. And maybe through understanding what you're trying to say, we can work together to hone the lyrical content so that it really drives the point home. And maybe it's okay to be a little bit more vulnerable and okay to be a little bit more on the nose and direct if the meaning is important and honest. So I think with that in play, yeah, a song like Silhouette makes it onto this record because it's really important to all of us, and we all did have take part in every aspect of every song in that way. So I think, yes, it is different in that way. But, you know, if Spencer had come to us with that idea and told us what it was about, I imagine it could have ended up on a different record, you know, if he was willing to share that level of vulnerability, for sure.
And by the way, his singing is just phenomenal on this album. Some of the best work I think he's done. You know,
I agree. He stepped it up, man. He definitely stepped it up on this record, for sure.
Yeah.
Keeps getting
All
better.
right. Well, if you get, let's talk drums a little bit, if that's okay. You are a drummer. I know I started out with the OCD anxiety question, just out of left field maybe, but so drumming, obviously at this stage in your career, you're like a huge influence. We actually ranked you on our Prog Report, like best modern drummers list. I think you're right, like neck and neck with the other Matt Garska.
No,
Marco was on there.
He smokes me, dude.
He can outlift you. I know that at this point, but
he can outlift me. He can outplay me. Yeah, he's that dude is like one of the best drummers of all time. Will go down in history like Hall of Famer drummer. So
yeah, he's great.
You know, he's a good friend. But
he's insane.
Yeah, I don't put myself on that level. It's like if I'm here, he's so.
Well,
yeah. But I appreciate that.
He is an alien. You are an excellent drummer. I love your attack and power behind the drums. I actually really like how you're technical at the same time. It sounds tasteful. Like my favorite music growing up was just straight ahead thrash metal and classic rock. And I feel like you're one that sort of like a John Bonham in the sense that you're playing really heavy, not heavy handed, but I mean, you beat the crap out of the drums. Like you can feel that come through, and like Neil and other drummers like that, but you have the technical chops to make it more interesting. Obviously with that little Djent flavor and kind of the new thing that you guys do, you and Matt and others around that era. As you've kind of getting to this point where now you're like a huge influence on a lot of drummers who are coming up behind you, how are you trying to stay like new and fresh with your approach? Like how has your drumming maybe changed over the years? And I guess, how do you stay inspired? That's a lot. So take whatever feels good to you.
I mean, there's definitely a responsibility that I feel, because there are a lot of people who are very kind and reach out to me all the time and share that Periphery has inspired them, or that, you know, me as a drummer have inspired them, which I think is crazy, but we hear it, we all hear it, and it's really great, and there's a responsibility to that. So I think for me, drumming is something that I've done for as long as I can remember, and it's something that I think about quite often. And I think the way that I stay fresh is just by listening to lots of different music and internalizing ideas behind why a drummer would play this, or why a producer would even program a part like they do. Why is that? How does that work with the song? For me, I'm not as excited or like driven to be the best chop guy in the world, the fastest double bass drummer in the world. I don't need to be the best soloist. I really want to come up with parts that make songs better. And that's what drives me. So listening to lots of different styles of music, lots of different, orchestrations and arrangements and productions, and then having band members who also push themselves and write music that is, for lack of a better word, maybe more complicated in some ways than it has been in the past. It pushes me to take all of the stuff that I digest musically and figure out, okay, out of all of this, how can I apply it here? Are there things that I can do to make these songs better based off what I've been paying attention to? And maybe it's stuff that I've listened to forever, or maybe it's brand new stuff. I don't know. But I really just want to, as a drummer, play the best part I can for the song. That's my goal, and then play it with feeling, play it with meaning. If a song is supposed to be energetic, then I need to play it with a lot of energy. If a song is supposed to be somber or more emotional, then I need to figure out how to connect with it to be more emotional. So that's what drives me as a drummer. That's what I want to emulate, or rather, put out there for people to see, feel, and hopefully they can emulate that and figure out how to apply it to their own music. That's my goal, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right on. No, it's great. I think drums are more than just technical thing that you learn, nude, faster rudiments to, so I view it in that same way,
Sure.
but mostly because I'm not technically as gifted as you. So I have to lean on the musicality, I call it, or I just buy new gear and lean on that. But one thing that kind of along those lines is I'm actually sitting at a drum tech, like electronic acoustic kit. And I've always used Superior Drummer, but you have your own kind of collection of drum sounds, and I'm too lazy to switch over unless you can convince me. But tell us about Get Good Drums. Like, I see your ads about that, and you guys always do like really funny advertisements for everything you do. So kudos to that. But there's probably a lot of people who are unaware of what that is. I'm curious how that's shaped how you approach the drums, and are you using that to demo stuff? Like, how does that play into the mix of Periphery and what you do?
Yeah. So Get Good Drums, or GGD, is a company that me and Nolly, our former bass player, Misha, and then our good friend Dez from the band Good Tiger, who was also on our cruise. We started the company back in 2016 as well. And it just started as a passion project. I mean, me and Nolly both are obsessed with drums. We both love recording drums in the studio, and we decided, hey, let's record some samples and let's see if we can actually turn it into like an instrument that people could actually have access to and use to write drum parts for their own songs, and we use our sounds. So we kind of launched it initially as just like a fun little project that we had no expectations of it being anything, and then people seemed to like it, and we had the opportunity then to really double down and turn it into a business, and kind of do it our own way. And I think so briefly, we have a lot of different drum libraries. We have products for guitars as well. We have some production tools that we offer too. And it's really just, the goal is to create the best sounding, also most affordable, I guess, production tools that you can get access to. Within, really, we try to hit and help any genre. But obviously, being in Periphery and having the reach that we do as a band, our initial audience and the people that gravitated towards it were people that were sort of in the metal scene overall. And so that's kind of like what we offer, what we do. But it's not just metal; it's for anybody. That's a mini plug. But we, I guess over the years have just kind of like with the band, it's like, hey, this is our thing. Nobody else has any ownership of it. Why don't we do things our way? Let's have fun with it. Let's write silly skits to help promote our holiday sales and to help promote our new products, and let's entertain people if we can. And it's all just it's all us being nerds and dorks and liking, like, we all like different styles of movies and different shows. And it's like, again, what can we take from all this stuff and how can we apply it to entertaining people while also trying to promote our brand. And you see it all the time. You see companies like Geico, they do amazing comedy adverts. So it's like, hey, if a huge company like that can do it, why can't we have fun with it? Let's have a good time. There's no rules. So yeah, that's just kind of our position on it, and we try to just have fun. And what's cool is that it's a company, but everybody knows who's behind it. So we really kind of like lean into that, and we play off each other. And hopefully you guys already feel this way about Periphery. I hope so. But like, nobody in this band takes themselves very seriously. Everybody has like a very realistic view of themselves, I think, to where we can make fun of ourselves, and we can be jovial, and not have it be this thing where we take ourselves too seriously. And I think that plays into the company as well. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I will say the only more jovial metal person is the singer of Cannibal Corpse. If I don't know if you follow him on Instagram, but
yeah, he's great, man.
he over Christmas he was like winning lots of the crane game, like stuffed animals at a Walmart or something.
I
saw that.
Follow it on
Anyway.
Instagram, Kyle. You got to turn me
saw
on.
that.
Like I said, it's drums with a little bit of crane game stuffed animals sprinkled in. So,
That's
but anyway,
amazing.
yeah.
That's killer.
Matt, again, thank you for giving us some time, man. I'm sorry it's been so long since we had you on, but you know, things got in the way over the years. But we're you know, you got a lot of stuff going on. Everything seems to be going really well. The new album is phenomenal. I you know, I still have some friends, sorry, that I try to turn you guys on to, and they're like, it's just too heavy. It's too heavy. And I'm like, no, this album, trust me, listen to this album. It's still heavy. It will still kick your ass, but it is absolutely accessible. And I think you guys have gotten better with every record. And this has absolutely been my favorite one so far. So again, Djent is not a genre. Comes out on March 10th. And good luck with everything. And hopefully we'll see you on tour soon or something.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. If you guys have any follow-up, or if you need any clarification or anything, just reach out by all means. Yeah, no worries.
All right, man. Enjoy
Thanks,
jiu-jitsu.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
See ya.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.